We're kicking off with 3 bombshells that are going to shake the DMV. First, a Pro Bowl safety without a team is killing it privately with Quinn and knows that we're his best shot at a ring. But if we don't sign before July, an NFC rival cashes his check. Second, Darren Payne is on fire. 7 years losing, now he wants to become a god in his breakout contract. Without him, our defensive line returns to 2018. But nothing hurts more than the third, Terry McLaurin. Our legend is 2 steps away from requesting a trade. Do you know what happens if he leaves? Without his connection with Daniels, this offense turns into Dyami Brown and a rookie. If you don't want to see how they destroy the Daniels era, subscribe now. The truth hurts, but losing them kills. Are you going to miss out? Commanders fans, we're starting with something that could be a golden opportunity for our defense. Justin Simmons, Pro Bowl safety from the Denver Broncos, is still without a team. And let me tell you this, he's looking for exactly what we Samui can offer. Do you know what his #1 priority is? A contending team. And after what we saw last year with Jaden Daniels, who can deny that we are exactly that? But let me explain exactly who Justin Simmons is and why he would be perfect for us. We're talking about a player who's been to the Pro Bowl 3 times, has 32 interceptions in his career, and led the NFL in interceptions in 2019 with 6. Do you remember the last time we had a safety who intercepted 6 passes in a season? Neither do I. Simmons is 6'2" and weighs 202 pounds, and I think you don't realize how perfect he'd be for our system. Right now, we have Quan Martin and Will Harris projected as our safeties, but neither has the physical size that Simmons brings. Martin is 5'11" and weighs 190 pounds. Harris is 6 foot and weighs 195 pounds. See the difference? Simmons would give us the physical presence we need in the backfield. And you know what's the craziest part of all this? When we lost Jeremy Chin, who went to Las Vegas on a 2-year, $12 million contract, I told you that we needed to find a replacement of his caliber. Chin was 6'3" and weighed 220 pounds. He was that hybrid, piece who could play in the box or in coverage. Simmons doesn't have exactly the same size, but he has something Chin never had. Playoff experience. Do you know how many playoffs Simmons has played in? 5. And in those playoffs, he has 4 interceptions. When the games matter, when the pressure is at its highest, Simmons has proven he can shine. And what do we have? We have young players with potential, but without that crucial January experience. Now, let's talk about money, because I know that's what some of you are thinking. Last year, Simmons earned $14.5 million with Denver. You think he's going to ask for the same? No way! He said himself he's being more selective with his next team. That means he's willing to take less money for the right opportunity. And you know what the right opportunity is? A team that can win the Super Bowl. Simmons is 30 years old, he's at the end of his career, and he wants a ring. Do you think he's going to choose more money with a mediocre team, or less money with a team that can compete? I believe the answer is obvious. Dan Quinn knows Simmons perfectly. When Quinn was the defensive coordinator of the Falcons, he faced Simmons twice a year when he was in the NFC South. Quinn knows exactly what Simmons can offer: leadership, experience, and the ability to make plays when they're needed. Joe Witt Jr., our defensive coordinator, comes from Green Bay, where he worked with safeties like Adrian Amos and Darnell. Savage! Witt knows how to maximize the potential of a veteran safety like Simmons. Can you imagine Simmons in our system, with the freedom to read the field and make plays? Now I ask you this. Would you rather bet everything on young players like Tyler Owens and Dominique Hampton? Or would you rather have the security of a proven veteran like Simmons while these young players develop? I believe the answer is clear. Tyler Owens is a second-year player from Boston College. Last year, he had 23 tackles in 15 games. Is he ready to start on a team that aspires to the playoffs? Dominique Hampton comes from Washington State. He has potential, but he's also a young player with no NFL experience. And you know what's the smartest thing about all this? If we sign Simmons, we lose nothing. Owens and Hampton can continue to develop, learning from a veteran who's been in the big leagues. Simmons isn't coming to block anyone's development. He's here to elevate the level of the entire second. Imagine this: Simmons and Quan Martin as our starting. Martin is 23 years old, comes from Auburn. He has all the physical tools, but is still learning to read complex offenses. Who better than Simmons to teach him? Who better to be his mentor? And in nickel pack, Simmons can play as the deep safety, while Martin moves closer to the line. In passing downs, Simmons can be that extra defender who can read the quarterback and make interceptions. I tell you this: with Simmons in the secondary, our cornerbacks will shine because they will have real help from. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but Marcus, what about the salary cap? Look, we have approximately $15 million in available space. If Simmons is willing to sign for $6 to $8 million for 1 year, why not do it? It's an investment that can take us from a young team with potential to a team that can compete now. And you know what's the most incredible thing about all this? That Simmons already said he wants to play for a contender. He mentioned that if he were in the same situation last year, he would choose Atlanta 10 out of 10 times. But now he's being selective. And what are we? We are exactly what he's looking for. Adam Peters, our GM, has shown he isn't afraid to make aggressive moves. He offloaded Jonathan Allen, signed Frankie Louvu, traded for Marshon Lattimore. Do you think Peters is going to pass up the opportunity to sign a Pro Bowl safety who wants to play? I believe that if Simmons is willing to sign for the right price, Peters will do everything possible to make it happen. Because the difference between having Simmons and not having him could be the difference between winning the division or missing the playoffs. If that surprises you, wait to hear. Now we're going to talk about someone who has lived all the battles with us, who has witnessed every painful moment and every small victory. Darren Payne, our defensive tackle, is in the most important year of his career, and let me tell you this: if you're not paying attention to what's happening with him, you're missing one of the most incredible stories of our franchise. Darren Payne was drafted in 2018, the 13th pick of the draft, and since then, he has been a rock in our defense. But here comes what breaks my heart. Of the 84 consecutive games he has played, only 38 ended in victory. Only 38. Can you imagine what it is to give everything for a team and lose 2 out of every 3 games over? 7 years. Let's put this in perspective. Payne has been here through 5 different head coaches: Jay Gruden, Bill Callahan, Ron Rivera, and now Dan Quinn. He has played with more than 10 different quarterbacks as starting. He has seen changes in defensive coordinators, changes in systems, changes in philosophies. And through all that, do you know what never changed? His commitment, his professionalism, his dedication. Do you know how many players have been drafted after Payne who have already won a Super Bowl? Several! While Payne has been here, battling in an organization struggling to find its identity, players like Nick Chubb, Lamar Jackson, and others of his class have reached the playoffs multiple times. But I believe 2025 will be different, and I'll explain exactly why. After Jonathan Allen went to Miami on a $27 million 3-year contract, Payne became the undisputed leader of our defensive line. Allen and Payne formed one of the best pairings of defensive tackles in the NFL for years. But now, Payne has the opportunity to prove he can be the guy. And you know what's most incredible? That Payne has been in Allen's shadow for a long time. Allen was the one who talked to the media, who was recognized as the vocal leader. But according to the coaches and his teammates, Payne is the one who truly leads by example on the field and in training. Last year, Payne played 742 snaps, the lowest figure of his career. But you know what? He LED all defensive. Linemen in snaps played. It wasn't because Dan Quinn or Joe Witt Jr. didn't trust him, but because we finally have the depth to rotate and keep our players fresh. Do you remember the previous seasons when Payne played more than 900 snaps? Because we had no one else. When he reached the end of the season completely exhausted. Now we have Jerjan Newton, Fedarian Mathis, Johnny Newton. We have the depth we never had before. But let's talk about the 2022 season, because that's the season that shows us exactly what Payne can do when he's motivated. 11.5 sacks for a defensive tackle, 11.5 Do you know how ridiculous that is? Most edge rushers don't reach that number. Aaron Donald, the best defensive tackle of the decade, averages 12 sacks per season. Payne almost reached those numbers. And do you know what was the difference in 2022? That Payne was playing for his future, for his first big contract. He had finished his rookie deal and needed to prove he deserved to be paid as one of the best defensive tackles in the league. And what happened? He signed a $90 million contract for 4 years, which at the time made him one of the highest paid DTs in the NFL. Well, guess what? We're in the same situation now. Payne has 2 more years on his contract, but Washington has an out after this season that would save $18 million in cap space. This means 2025 is practically a contract year for him, and I believe that when Payne plays for his future, that's when we see his best version. But you know what's most important? That now, for the first time in his career, Payne has the opportunity to shine on a team that can win. He's not playing just for money, he's playing for legacy. He's playing for the chance to be part of something special. Dan Quinn has been crystal clear about Payne's role in this defense. Quinn comes from Dallas, where he worked with Trevon Diggs, Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence. He knows exactly what it means to have a defensive tackle who can dominate the interior of the line. And Quinn has seen exactly those qualities in Payne Joe. Witt Jr. has talked about how Payne has been one of the most receptive players to new techniques and concepts. Witt comes from Green Bay, where he worked with Kenny Clark, another elite defensive tackle. And Witt has said that Payne has similar tools to Clark: the strength to stop the run, the technique to rush the passer, and the intelligence to read block. But you know what's most impressive about Payne? His versatility. He can play nose tackle. In run situations, he can play 3-tech on passing downs. He can move all over the line. In our defense, that versatility is crucial. It allows us to be unpredictable. It allows us to use different packages without having to change. Now, let's talk numbers, because I know that's what really matters. Last year, Payne had 5 sacks, 33 tackles, and 6 tackles for loss. Are they incredible numbers? No. But you know what? He was learning a whole new system, with new coaches, new responsibilities. And you know what's the most frustrating part? That Payne generated pressure on 11.8% of his rushes, which is a solid number for a defensive tackle. But it didn't turn into sacks because we didn't have the edge rusher production we needed. When your edge rusher can't finish, the defensive tackle can't accumulate sacks. But this year is different. We have Clelin Ferrell, we have Frankie Louvu, we have depth in edge rusher. When Payne collapses the pocket inside, now we have players who can finish from outside. Can you imagine the numbers Payne can put up if he has consistent help? Payne has been one of the best run stoppers in the league for years. His ability to eat blocks, to occupy offensive linemen, to open up gaps for linebackers is something that doesn't show up in the stats, but is crucial for the success of a defense. Now, I ask you this. Do you believe Payne is going to let this opportunity slip by? After 7 years of losing, after seeing other players from his draft class win titles, do you think he's going to waste the opportunity to finally shine with a contender? I believe that Payne is more motivated than ever. He's in his prime. Years. He's 28. He's surrounded by the best coaching staff he's had in his career, and for the first time, he has teammates who can help him shine. If not now, when? The coaches have made it clear that Payne remains a fundamental piece of their plans. Dan Quinn has specifically mentioned him as one of the leaders of the defense. Joe Witt Jr. has talked about how Payne has been exemplary in adapting to the new system. And Darryl Tapp, our defensive line coach, has said that Payne is the type of player who can elevate the level of the entire line. But you know what excites me most? That Payne will finally play with an offense that can keep the defense rested. Do you remember previous years when our offense couldn't hold the ball? Payne and the defense used to spend 40-plus minutes on the field every game. How are they supposed to generate pressure when they're exhausted? Now we have Jaden Daniels. We have an offense that can control the clock, that can score consistently. That means Payne will be fresh in the fourth quarter. He'll be able to make those game-changing plays when they're most needed. And you know what's the most important part of all this? That Payne deserves to shine. After everything he's been through, after all the defeats, After maintaining his professionalism through so many changes, this man deserves the opportunity to play in January. And I believe 2025 will be his year. But that's nothing compared. And now we reach the news that has the entire DMV with their hearts in their mouths. The situation that keeps me up at night, the crisis that could completely define the future of our franchise. Terry McLaurin, our WR1, our star, the man who has been loyal to this organization through all the dark times, is in a contractual situation that could change everything. Do you know what it means that Terry missed the mandatory minicamp? That never happens with him. We're talking about a player who has been the epitome of professionalism, who has stood up for this organization when others walked away, who has been our #1 receiver through Alex Smith, Case Keenum, Dwayne Haskins, Taylor Heineke, Carson Wentz, and Sam Howell. Do you realize that? Terry McLaurin has had to adapt to 7 different quarterbacks in 5 years. Do you know how incredibly difficult that is? Every quarterback has a different timing, a different arm strength, a different accuracy. And through all that, Terry has maintained an elite level of production. Let's talk numbers because I believe you don't realize how incredible Terry has been. In 2023, with Sam Howell as quarterback, Terry had 79 receptions for 1,002 yards. 1,000 yards with Sam Howell. Do you know how ridiculous that is? Howell completed 62.4% of his passes with 21 touchdowns and 21 interceptions, and Terry still managed to have a 1,000-yard season. And in 2022, with Carson Wentz and Taylor Heineke, Terry had 77 receptions for 1,191 yards. In 2021, primarily with Heineke, 77 receptions for 1,053 yards. In 2020, with Alex Smith, Kyle Allen, and Dwayne Haskins, 87 receptions for 1,118 yards. See the pattern? Terry produces no matter who's throwing him the ball. But you know what's most impressive? That Terry has done all this without ever complaining publicly. How many times have you heard him criticize his quarterbacks? How many times have you heard him request a trade? How many times have you heard him speak ill of the organization? Never. Not once. When other receivers like DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, or Deebo Samuel have had public dramas with their teams, Terry has been nothing but professional. When others have used social media to pressure their organizations, Terry has kept his mouth shut and worked. And how do we repay that loyalty? With a contractual situation that has him frustrated enough to miss the mandatory minicamp. Do you know how much money Terry is making right now? $19.7 million per year. Do you know how much Cooper Kupp is making? $26.7 million. Devontae Adams, $28 million. Mike Evans, $27.5 million. And Terry? Terry is making less than all those receivers, despite being more consistent, more durable, and more productive considering the circumstances. Is that fair? Absolutely not. Now let's talk about what Terry is asking for. According to reports, he wants a contract that puts him among the top 10 paid receivers in the league. Is that unreasonable? Absolutely not. Terry deserves to be in that conversation. He's proven he can produce with anyone, that he can elevate bad quarterbacks, that he can be the focal point of an offense. But you know what's most frustrating about all this? That both Terry and the organization want him to stay in the DMV. Adam Peters has publicly said that Terry is a key part of future plans. Dan Quinn has talked about Terry's importance in the team's culture. So why can't they reach an agreement? The problem is simple: money. The organization is concerned about the salary cap, especially considering they're going to have to pay Jaden Daniels in the future. But I ask you this: what value does Jaden Daniels have without Terry McLaurin? Did you see the connection they developed last year? It was magical. Terry had 82 receptions for 1,096 yards with Daniels as quarterback. But do you know what's most important? That Terry was Daniels' security blanket, his reliable receiver, the guy who was always open when Daniels needed to make a play. Do you want Daniels to develop that chemistry with someone else? That's going to take years. And do you know what's most worrying? That analysts are already suggesting teams that could trade for Terry. Mike Kadlick from Sports Illustrated mentioned the Tennessee Titans as a possibility. And when I read something like that, it breaks my heart. Can you imagine Terry McLaurin in another uniform? Can you imagine that after everything he's done for us, after being the face of the franchise during the tough years, he leaves now that we finally have something special? The Titans absolutely make sense as a destination. They have Cam Ward, the #1 draft pick, a quarterback with a huge arm who can take advantage of Terry's deep speed. They have Calvin Ridley, but they need a true WR1. And more importantly, they have money. The Titans have approximately $35 million in cap space, more than enough to give Terry the contract he deserves. And you know what would be perfect for Terry? Playing with Cam Ward. Ward has an arm strength similar to Josh Allen. He can make all the throws that Terry excels at. Terry's route running, his ability to create separation, his hands, all that would be perfect for a young quarterback like. But you know what would be terrible for us? Losing Terry, now that we finally have J. Do you realize what it means to have Terry teaching Daniels how to read NFL what it means to have a receiver who can adjust his routes? Based on what he sees from the defense, Terry is not just a receiver, he's a teacher. He's been studying NFL defenses for 5 years. He knows how to find the soft spots, how to create mismatches. Do you want Daniels to learn that by himself? Or do you want him to have Terry as his mentor? And you know what's most ironic about all this? That Terry is in his prime. He's 29 years old, the perfect age for a receiver. He's not old enough to be declining, but he's experienced enough to be at his peak. Do you want to waste those prime years because of money issues? Now, let's talk about alternatives if Terry gets traded. Who becomes our WR1? Dyami Brown? Jahan Dotson? Luke McCaffrey? Do you believe any of those players are ready to be the focal point of our offense? Absolutely not. Dyami Brown has shown flashes, but he hasn't been consistent enough. Jahan Dotson has potential, but he's coming off an injury. Luke McCaffrey is a rookie who hasn't played a single NFL snap. Do you want Jaden Daniels to develop chemistry with receivers who haven't proven anything? And in next year's draft? Sure, we could draft a receiver in the first round. But you know what? Rookie receivers rarely produce at an elite level immediately. Do you want Daniels to waste a season of development while a rookie learns the system and free agency? What elite receivers are going to be available? The elite guys get extended by their teams. Do you want to bet the future of our offense on finding someone in free agency? I believe this is a situation where both Terry and the organization need. Terry deserves to be paid like the elite receiver that he is, but he also needs to understand that we're building something special, and that taking a slightly smaller contract could result in more success on the field. And the organization? They need to realize that Terry is irreplaceable. Not just because of his production, but because of his leadership, his professionalism, his knowledge of the system. Can you put a price on that? I don't think so. But you know what's the scariest part of all this? That if it's not resolved soon, this could become toxic. Did you see what happened with Calvin Ridley in Atlanta? Or with DK Metcalf in Seattle? When contract negotiations drag on, relationships get damaged. And once the relationship is damaged, it's hard. Terry has been nothing but professional until now. But if this continues, if there's no progress, how long before he starts being more vocal? How long before other players start taking sides? How long before this becomes a distraction for the entire team? And you know what's the most important part of all this? That Terry represents more than just football to this fan base. He represents loyalty, consistency, professionalism. He's been the one constant through all the chaos. Do you want to lose that? Do you want to lose the player who embodies everything we want our franchise to be? Now I ask you this. Are you willing to lose Terry McLaurin over contract issues? After everything he's done for us, after being the light in the darkness for so long? I tell you this, if we lose Terry now, when we finally have a team that can compete, it would be one of the most stupid decisions in the history of this franchise. Adam Peters, if you're watching this, I tell you this, pay the man. Terry McLaurin is not just a receiver. He's a symbol. He's the player who stayed when others left, who never complained publicly, who always said the right things. And now that he can finally shine with Jaden Daniels, are we going to let him go? Do you know what happens if Terry gets traded? We become a laughingstock again. We become the team that can't keep their stars happy. We become the team that makes stupid decisions. Is that what you want? Commanders fans, here are the 3 news stories that are going to define our immediate future. Justin Simmons available and waiting for a contender. Darren Payne in the most crucial year of his career after 7 years of loyalty. And Terry McLaurin in a contractual crossroads that could change everything. What do you think about Terry's situation? Do you think Adam Peters will do the right thing and pay what he deserves? Or do you think we should consider a trade if the situation gets worse? Can you imagine Terry in a different uniform after everything he's done for us? And what do you think about Justin Simmons? Would he be the perfect piece for our defense? A Pro Bowl safety who wants to play for a contender, who has the experience we need, who can be the mentor Martin needs. Or do you prefer to bet everything on our young players? And do you trust that Darren Payne will have an explosive season like 2022? After 7 years of loyalty, after seeing Jonathan Allen leave, do you think this is finally his moment to shine? Or do you think it's too late for him to become the star we thought he could be? I need you to tell me in the comments, which of these 3 situations worries you the most? The possible arrival of Simmons, Payne's future, or the possible trade of Terry?